This video is sponsored by Buyee. Make sure you sign up for Buyee with my link in the description for a 2,000 yen coupon towards any purchase made on Buyee. If you're a big fan of the art in the Digimon card game, which I think you might be if you're watching this video, you can get the Japanese versions of the sets weeks or sometimes months before the global release on Yahoo Japan Auctions and Shopping, Mercari, Rakuten, and much more via Buyee. The Blast Day set that doesn't come out until November this year in English is out in Japanese to order on Buyee right now. Thank you to Buyee for sponsoring this video, and let's get to it. So this month, the Digimon card game set versus Royal Knights is coming out. Street dates sure do work. A lot of you since my Dark Masters video have been requesting me to talk about the full Digivolution lines for the Royal Knights. And much like that video, for a lot of the Royal Knights, we do have Digivolution lines or branches that are already pretty canonized, already reasonably well done. But something that surprised me with the Dark Masters video is that you still enjoyed it, you still wanted to know. Not just me coming up with evolution ideas, but also established evolutions that Bandai Namco and Toei have made for these Digimon. So enjoy your Digivolution ASMR as I cover the canonical and my own personally cobbled together versions of Royal Knights Digivolution lines. What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX and welcome back to another video, and yes, today we are going to be exploring the Digivolution lines of the Royal Knights. Now, of course, Digivolution is also branching, but it's undeniably the fact that especially anime partners, but even non-anime partners, definitely have curated through lines. This is happening still very recently. For example, in Digimon Seekers, Commandramon goes to High Commandramon to Cargodramon and Brigadamon. That's one intentionally designed line, but of course it could also branch at any point. And that's what we're talking about here. So beginning with Omnimon, or Omegamon, it's pretty clear he actually has two Digivolution lines converging into one. Obviously, if you've seen basically any Digimon media for the last 25 years-ish, happy 26th birthday by the way, Digimon, you'll know that Omnimon is comprised of War Greymon and Metal Garurumon. So one half of him is War Greymon to Metal Greymon to Greymon and Agumon, and the other half of him is Metal Garurumon to Were Garurumon to Garurumon and Gabumon. If someone didn't know that and you're watching my videos, welcome. You're all welcome here. Then we move over to Magnamon, and obviously the most likely scenario is that Magnamon is a Golden Armor Digivolution of Veemon, just like it is in Hurricane Touchdown and Digimon Adventure 02. Magnamon is considered to be the power level of a Mega, even though it technically isn't the Mega level, in some ways making Golden Armor Digivolution almost like Warp Armor Digivolution, but for the purposes of the Royal Knights, he's treated like a Mega, which could also mean that he could have a Digivolution line. Magnamon has Digivolved from GoldVeedramon before in things like the Vital Bracelet, so that would make sense to me. The champion could be any Golden Digimon, honestly, or it could just be X-Veemon and then finally Veemon. Future Karn here, I want to jump in because I know one of you's gonna actually mean GoldVeedramon, because it is technically a Golden Armor Digivolution, also does not have a fixed level, so it's used as an ultimate in the Vital Bracelet, but I also do know that it is used as a champion, a level 4 in things like the card game. Both are correct, thank you very much. But again, while we are talking about through lines today, I think this Magnamon is really clearly just Veemon Golden Armor Digivolving. Gallantmon, again, a very simple one, coming from War Growlmon, Growlmon, and Guilmon. I do think the Royal Knight Gallantmon does still have the potential to become Megidramon. He is still a digital hazard after all, and maybe even Chaos Gallantmon. Alright, our first one on this video that does not have a completely canonical, always used evolution. Dynasmon. He is a Wyvern, and of course has Digivolved in the franchise before, but his most common pre-evolution actually surprised me, and that is Mistymon. Happening a lot of times across various cards, and notably in Digimon Masters and Soul Chaser. Other considerations for pre-evolutions for Dynasmon that have happened before are Sylphimon, Wingdramon, and Aeroveedramon. Aeroveedramon naturally I'm keeping for Ulforce, so is off the table, and similarly Wingdramon does show up in the very cemented evos of another Royal Knight. Sylphimon I actually kind of like. There's something fun about Sylphimon becoming Dynasmon, but I think Dynasmon digivolving from Mistymon turns this into a sort of Dungeons and Dragons feel, a mystical journey Digivolution branch of wizards and dragons. But then it's pretty straightforward. Mistymon would digivolve from Wizardmon, adding a little bit more of that witch-only element to the Royal Knights, which is always appreciated, especially as we consider that medieval Gallantmon, the counterpart, the alternative being to regular Gallantmon, is also parading around witch-only. The rookie then you could go for very standard Wizardmon prevos, Impmon, Candlemon would work. However, as we don't have this full through line for Dynasmon cemented really, I would personally make the rookie Rurimon, a fusion of magic and dinosaur or dragon elements. Now yes, this is one of those Digimon that I talked about in my Digimon We're Likely Never to See Again video, because it was made for a fan specifically, although the fans do not own the copyright, so we definitely could see Rurimon again, and I just think it works so well. Explaining it that data is variable and changeable. Sometimes you do see elements of a Digimon disappear through its evolutions and then resurface at Mega. So Rurimon being a little magic dinosaur or magic dragon, going to Wizardmon, then Mistymon, and then ending up as another Wyvern Dragon Royal Knight, bookends the evolution line really nicely in my opinion. LordKnightmon, fairly obvious, would digivolve from Knightmon. LordKnightmon is the Lord of Knightmons, or the Crusader-mon. Knightmon's most common pre-evolution then would be Gladdymon, and finally the rookie Kotemon. This is a very popular line. I believe this is also used in Digimon New Century, and you see from Kotemon using training swords to Gladdymon using fencing foils, Knightmon having the big sword, and then LordKnightmon being a Royal Knight, that the evolution branch is getting better and better at combat as it goes on and becoming more knightly as it goes on. Though another rookie choice that I really would like in place of Kotemon would be Pawn Chessmon White. It visually is a lot more similar to Gladdymon, and while it's a pawn, it does kind of also look knightly. So Pawn Chessmon White or Kotemon I think look great in this evolution line for LordKnightmon. UlforceVeedramon. Gee, I wonder what he digivolves from. Yeah, it's going to be AeroVeedramon and then Veedramon. Part of me has always kind of assumed that the UlforceVeedramon in the Royal Knights is actually specifically supposed to be the V-Tamers Zeromaru, but I don't know if there's actually any canon backing that up. However, you may assume that the rookie would be Vmon, because of course Veedramon and AeroVeedramon are very much the second or alternate evolution line for Vmon, but it's actually intimated in V-Tamer that Zeromaru's rookie was actually an Agumon, and this is supported even to this day in things like the card game. So to me that shakes things up a bit. Agumon to Veedramon to AeroVeedramon and finally Ulforce. Alphamon, Dorugureimon, Dorugamon and Dorumon. Though I do think specifically the Royal Knights Alphamon could also have Grademon as its ultimate. Grademon is an incredibly common Alphamon prevo and is slightly more knightly than the more draconic Dorugureimon. Honestly, I think it would be really neat to see Grademon coming from something like the Zubamon family as an alternative take on Alphamon, focusing more on the knightly side than the dragon fluffy boy side. Grademon is also a natural carrier of the X antibody, so it doesn't really invalidate that whole element of Alphamon's existence. So yeah, Grademon, Dorugureimon, whichever you prefer. Or both. We love branches here. Kentaurosmon, again, fairly simple. Very clearly supposed to digivolve from Kirinmon, then Repamon, the original design of Kudamon, though of course both are fine and pretty interchangeable. I do think it'd be cool though if we saw like an alternative Royal Knight made up of all the Royal Knights' alternative forms or slide evos, etc. You know, a Royal Knights with Alter S instead of Omnimon, Medieval Gallantmon instead of Gallantmon, Ordumon instead of Alphamon, and Mitamamon from Digimon Eirias instead of Kentaurosmon. Is that a good video idea? Do you want to see that? If you want to see my ideas of the Royal Knights alternative beings, let me know in the comments down below. Duftmon is another one that doesn't really have a ton of cemented prevos. Grapleomon is a very common pre-evolution, including in Hacker's Memory for Duftmon. And while yes, Grapleomon is not a leopard, it is a Leomon, leopard. Anyway, yeah, then we'd go to Leomon and finally Lyolmon. But I do think Gazimon would be a great Duftmon prevo too. Some other Digimon in consideration are Knightmon, which has happened a bunch, but I just much prefer Knightmon for LordKnightmon instead of Duftmon. Wegarurumon and Wegarurumon Black I think are totally valid, and Beowulfmon would be interesting. But Grapleomon has happened enough times in the franchise, and I can definitely see how the two could be linked again because of that Leopard vibe and their blonde-ish hair. Although I'd say Grapleomon is probably a little bit more strawberry blonde / ginger. Craniamon is another member of the Royal Knights that maddeningly has never been given a full Digivolution line, and much like his fellow members of the Royal Knights, Duftmon and LordKnightmon, his most common prevo is actually Knightmon. I guess Digimon just said, well, Knightmon for the Royal Knights. The next most common evolution though is one that is no surprise, and that is Andromon. Happening as recently as in the card game, but also in Digimon Crusader, Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, Lynx and Rearise. And yeah, I'm really happy with Andromon for Craniamon. Between High Andromon and Craniamon, I'm quite a fan of Craniamon being the evolution for Andromon. The champion could be Gardramon or Mechanorimon, but I think Mechanorimon works a little bit better coming down from Andromon, and then Haguramon as the rookie. I do sometimes see people say that Craniamon's prevo should be something more skullish or demonic like Skull Satamon, and I don't disagree. However, that skull feeling coming from Andromon is very much there. Andromon's headpiece and shoulders are literally metallic skulls, so it definitely fits. Examon, interestingly very similar to Omnimon, is pretty much designated as a fusion of two Digivolution lines, or really more a Digimon that branches and then comes back together as a Breakdramon and Slayerdramon Jogress. The Breakdramon half digivolves from from Groundramon, then Cordramon Green, and finally Dracomon. And the Slayerdramon half comes from Wingdramon to Cordramon Blue, and finally Dracomon. Which is also why I didn't want to use Wingdramon in the Dynasmon segment. It's very clearly part of the two prevos of Examon. JESmon, our last straightforward one, comes from Savior Huck or Hackmon, Bow Hackmon, and Hackmon. Love this evolution line, love everything about it, love JESmon X, JESmon GX, and want to see more of all the Hackmon evolutions in future. Which finally brings us to the Royal Knight that honestly surprises me has never been cemented a Digivolution line, Gankoomon. It's super wild we've never seen a direct curated prevo for this guy, just like JESmon has, as Gankoomon and JESmon are the later additions to the Royal Knights and counterparts in many ways. Something like Aegircusmon would be so great for Gankoomon, but of course that is heavily associated with Jupitermon and the Olympus 12. We do, however, have prevos of existing Digimon that have happened before in the franchise that I really see the appeal of. First is Deathmeramon. It's a humanoid with spiky hair and a flaming aura, which really appeals to me as being the beginning of what would eventually be Gankoomon's Hinu Kamui, his fighting aura. Another really common one is Superstarmon, which is such a great Digimon, and I can actually definitely see a weird visual match between it and Gankoomon. Plus, they're both big champions for justice. Superstarmon is also one of my favourite pre-evolutions for Justimon. And another outlier that has never happened, but I see great merit in, and so do many people in the fandom, is Gokumon, creating a kind of Journey to the West themed evolution. And Gokumon is said to have been born from boiling magma, which again could totally be setting up Hinu Kamui. Plus Gokumon, Gankoomon, you know, it's similar. So I have settled on that. Gankoomon coming from Gokumon, then Hanumon, and the rookie Monmon. This creates a slightly unexpected monkey-like line for Gankoomon, almost feeling not just like Digivolution, but also IRL evolution in some ways. Although I know that we didn't literally evolve from monkeys, it was a common ancestor, but you get the point. The only thing I don't like is that Monmon, Hanumon, and Gokumon all have weapons, but Gankoomon himself does not. But I do like the evolution of those Digimon. Monmon using a rudimentary slingshot, Hanumon a basic bone club, and then transitioning to Gokumon's more deliberately crafted staff. And then, yeah, Gankoomon kind of focuses on fists. Except that's actually not true. Gankumon's reference book listing refers to its Chabudai Gaishi, where it appends the ground as if it were a Chabudai, a Japanese table, and the ground being treated like a Chabudai becomes as hard as if it was made of chrome Digizoid. This refers to the upending of Japanese tables, often used as a metaphor. To upend the tea table is to upset or disturb the status quo, and literally did or does happen, even getting an arcade game where the entire focus of the game is to flip the tea table. Hilarious. I would love to play that one day. So Gankoomon does use weaponry in some ways. Also, if we look at Gankoomon X, it takes off its footwear to use as weaponry. It's wooden footwear. Again, adding extra context that maybe by assimilating the X antibody, this Gankoomon line has kind of chosen to revert back to what it knew in previous evolutions. The more bestial, basic nature we see in its Monmon, Hanumon, and Gokumon of using rudimentary or at least simplistic weaponry. Slingshots, clubs, poles, tables, and wooden clogs. And that's it. Existing, very cemented Digivolution lines for the Royal Knights, and also some ones that I have kind of crafted or curated. Of course, out of the ones that I have curated, even the ones that are very established, they're far from objective, and Digivolution does branch. But I'd love to hear your more unique, slightly out there ideas for the Royal Knights. And thank you so much for watching that Dark Masters video, by the way. Got over 100,000 views, and all the comments telling me you did want to hear about existing Digivolution lines, not just ones that I came up with. That's super nice because I love talking about the entire franchise of Digimon, so hopefully I've at least repeated that information in an interesting way, giving you something to relax and study to. Or maybe if you're just dipping your toes into the Digimon franchise or aren't super familiar with the Royal Knights, this has caught you up to speed in a slightly timely manner. Thank you to my Sovereign, ZDK14 and JMon. It's Elementary is no longer able to be a Sovereign because he's having a baby. Congratulations, It's Elementary. Thank you so much for all your support so far. I endlessly appreciate it, but of course your baby is more important than silly old Digimon videos on the internet. Thank you to my Digidestined, my Tamers, my Karn Club, and all of you for watching. Make sure you watch this other video that's on screen right now, or this playlist. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time when we go digital. Bye bye.